Focus on yourself. Move in silence. Let results speak. Part 1. Opening and first movements of the day. The morning arrives quietly. No applause, no recognition, no audience waiting to witness the beginning of your effort. Just silence, and in that silence lies a truth that most people will never accept. The most important battles of life are fought where no one can see them. Before the world begins to move, before the noise of expectation and distraction begins to flood the mind, there is a small window of time when everything is still. In that stillness, we face the one opponent that has always determined the course of our lives. Ourselves. Many people wake up immediately looking outward. They reach for their phones. They search for validation. They measure themselves against the noise of the world. But those who seek mastery understand something different. The world outside is not the battlefield. The battlefield is within. The ancient emperor and philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is where our day must begin, not with reaction, but with control. Because the moment we allow the world to dictate our emotions, our focus, and our direction, we surrender the one thing that was always ours to govern our inner world. And so, when the morning comes, we make a quiet decision. We will focus on ourselves, we will move in silence, and we will let results speak. The first discipline, conquering the morning mind when the eyes open. The mind is not yet steady. Thoughts rush in like uninvited guests. Doubt, anxiety, resentment, regret. These emotions arrive with incredible persistence. They whisper stories about what others have said, what others have done, what others may think. But here is the truth we must remember. These voices are not commands. They are only impressions. The teacher Epictetus warned his students about this very moment. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. This means something profoundly liberating. Our anger is not forced upon us. Our fear is not forced upon us. Our frustration is not forced upon us. They arise because we grant them authority. And every morning we are given the chance to refuse that authority. So the first discipline is simple, but incredibly difficult. We observe the mind without obeying it. When the thought comes, "They are ahead of you," we answer, "That is not within my control." When the thought comes, "You should prove yourself," we answer, "My work will prove itself." When the thought comes, "You must explain yourself," we answer, "Silence is stronger than explanation." The morning mind must be trained the same way a warrior trains his body, through repetition, through resistance, through unwavering patience. The second, discipline, withdrawing from the noise. The world is obsessed with display. People broadcast their ambitions, their plans, their victories, and sometimes even their struggles. But there is a quiet law that governs real achievement. The louder the announcement, the weaker the foundation. The philosopher Seneca once warned, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." And the same can be said of those who announce their battles before they have fought them. Talking about effort is not effort. Talking about discipline is not discipline. Talking about change is not change. When we truly decide to transform ourselves, something interesting happens. We become quieter because our attention is no longer directed outward. It is directed inward. We stop explaining ourselves to the world. We stop seeking approval from people who are not walking our path. We stop announcing our intentions, and in that silence, something powerful begins to grow. Focus. When energy is not wasted on defending our identity, we can invest it entirely into building it. And so the second discipline of the morning is this: withdraw from the noise. Let others speak. Let others argue. Let others seek. Attention, our responsibility is different. We are here to work. The third discipline. Directing the will is a misunderstanding that weakens many people. They believe discipline is the result of motivation, but motivation is unreliable. It arrives when circumstances are comfortable and disappears the moment effort becomes difficult. The ancient teachers understood this. Long ago, action must not depend on emotion. Action must depend on principle. We rise not because we feel inspired. We rise because it is our duty. The modern scholar, William B. Irvine, described this mindset clearly when he explained that the ancient philosophers trained themselves to value virtue above comfort. What does this mean for us? It means that every morning we ask a single question. Not, what do I feel like doing today? But, what must be done today? This small shift changes everything. Emotion becomes irrelevant. Excuses become powerless, and progress becomes inevitable. Because when the will is guided by principle instead of mood, consistency becomes possible, and consistency is the quiet architect of greatness. The fourth discipline. Mastery over emotion. There is an emotion that quietly destroys more lives than failure itself. Resentment, resentment toward others, resentment toward circumstances, resentment toward the past. It drains energy, poisons focus, and blinds the mind. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote something remarkably direct about this struggle. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When we wake up carrying anger towards someone else, we unknowingly hand them control over our day. Our attention belongs to them. Our emotions belong to them. Our peace belongs to them. But the path of inner mastery demands something different. We release resentment not because others deserve forgiveness, but because we deserve freedom. We cannot build strength while dragging chains from the past, and so we practice emotional discipline. When anger appears, we examine it. When envy appears, we question it. When fear appears, we confront it, because emotions are not enemies, they are signals, and signals are meant to be understood, not obeyed. The fifth discipline, invisible progress. One of the greatest challenges in life is patience. We live in a world that celebrates immediate results, immediate praise, immediate success, immediate recognition, but real transformation refuses to follow that timeline. It grows slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. For long periods, it feels as if nothing is changing at all, but beneath the surface, something powerful is forming. Character. This is why the path we walk requires silence, because when results are not yet visible, the temptation to seek validation becomes overwhelming. We want someone to notice, someone to acknowledge the effort. But the truth is this: if our discipline depends on recognition, it is not discipline at all. It is performance, and performance ends the moment the audience disappears. So, we return to our work, quietly, patiently, confident that results will arrive not when we demand them, but when we have earned them. The sixth discipline, guarding the inner fortress. There is a place inside each of us that must remain untouched by chaos. A calm center, a place where judgment remains clear even when circumstances become difficult. The ancient teachers spoke of this inner stronghold often, because once it is lost, everything else becomes unstable. The insults of others begin to matter. The opinions of strangers begin to matter. The the distractions of the world begin to matter. But when the inner fortress is strong, these things lose their power. The philosopher Epictetus once reminded his students, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery begins with boundaries. We guard what enters the mind. We guard what occupies our attention. We guard what influences our emotions. Because attention is life's most valuable currency. Where attention goes, energy flows. And where energy flows, character is formed. The seventh discipline, letting results speak eventually. Something remarkable happens. The quiet work begins to reveal itself, not through announcements, not through explanations, but through undeniable evidence. Competence, strength, composure, others begin to notice a difference they cannot easily explain. They see consistency where there used to be hesitation, calm where there used to be reaction, purpose where there used to be distraction, and suddenly the silence that once seemed invisible becomes powerful, because results speak a language that words never could. And this is the final lesson of the morning. We do not need to convince anyone of who we are becoming. Our actions will do that. Our discipline will do that. Our character will do that. So we continue forward, quietly, focused, unshaken by noise, unmoved by distraction, knowing that the path of inner mastery has never required applause, only commitment. Part 2. The silent war within the world often believes that strength is loud. It believes strength is proven through confrontation, through argument, through domination of others. But those who have spent time observing the human mind understand a quieter truth. The greatest victories in life leave no witnesses. They happen in moments when no one is watching. When the mind stands at a crossroads between impulse and discipline, every morning we step into this invisible arena, and the opponent waiting. There is not another person. It is distraction. It is ego. It is the restless urge to prove ourselves to people who are not responsible for the direction of our lives. The philosopher Seneca once wrote, "While we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away." Those words were not meant as an accusation. They were meant as a wake-up call. Because the tragedy of most lives is not failure. The tragedy is misdirected attention. People spend years reacting to insults, chasing validation, competing in battles that have nothing to do with their purpose. They exhaust themselves trying to be seen. But the path of self-mastery demands something different. It demands the courage to withdraw from meaningless conflict, not out of weakness, but out of clarity. When the mind becomes disciplined, it begins to recognize an important truth. Not every battle deserves our energy. The eighth discipline, refusing the need for approval, is one of the most subtle forms of dependency. It disguises itself as connection, as belonging, as recognition. But beneath the surface, it quietly chains our actions to the opinions of others. When approval becomes necessary, freedom disappears, because every decision must first pass through the court of public judgment. Will they like it? Will they understand it? Will they approve? This constant questioning slowly erodes the will. It replaces conviction with hesitation. And yet the ancient teachers repeatedly warned about this danger. The teacher, Epictetus, said something that still echoes across centuries. If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. This is a difficult idea to accept. It means that the pursuit of growth will often make us look strange to those who prefer comfort. When we choose discipline over indulgence, when we choose silence over explanation, when we choose long-term purpose over short-term approval, others may misunderstand us. And that must be acceptable, because approval from others cannot be the compass that guides our lives. A compass must point to truth, and truth is not determined by popularity. The ninth discipline, training the mind against impulse. Human beings possess a powerful imagination. It allows us to create art, build civilizations, and explore ideas far beyond the limits of the present moment. But this same imagination can also become a source of suffering. The mind anticipates criticism before it happens. It imagines failure before effort has even begun. It invents humiliations that may never occur. In many ways, the mind becomes its own worst enemy. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius observed this pattern with remarkable clarity. Today I escaped from anxiety. Or no, I discarded it because it was within me. This sentence reveals something profound. Anxiety often does not come from the outside world. It comes from the stories we tell ourselves about the outside world. When we imagine judgment, we feel fear. When we imagine loss, we feel despair. When we imagine injustice, we feel anger. And so the disciplined mind practices something simple yet powerful. It questions its own assumptions. When the mind says, "This will end badly," we ask, "Is that a fact or just a prediction?" When the mind says, "They will judge you," we ask, "Even if they do, what power does that truly have?" When the mind says, "You cannot handle failure," we answer with quiet confidence, "Then today will be the day we learn how." This process transforms the mind from a chaotic storyteller into a rational guide. The 10th discipline, protecting energy. Energy is life's most valuable resource. Without energy, there is no focus. Without focus, there is no progress. And yet, many people lose enormous amounts of energy every day on things that produce nothing. Arguments, jealousy, endless comparison. The philosopher Seneca warned his readers about this invisible drain when he wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Time and energy are inseparable. When energy is scattered across trivial concerns, time disappears without leaving behind meaningful progress. This is why those who seek mastery become extremely selective about where their attention goes. They do not argue over every insult. They do not chase every opportunity. They do not react to every provocation. Instead, they develop a powerful habit. They pause, and in that pause they ask a simple question. Does this deserve my energy? Most of the time, the answer is no. And in that refusal, something remarkable happens. Energy begins to accumulate. Focus sharpens, clarity deepens, progress accelerates. The 11th discipline, accepting hardship as training. Comfort is seductive. It whispers that life should always feel easy, smooth, and pleasant. But comfort also carries a hidden cost. It weakens resilience. A mind that has never experienced difficulty becomes fragile. The smallest obstacle begins to feel overwhelming. The smallest criticism begins to feel unbearable. But adversity performs an important function. It reveals the strength we did not know we possessed. The modern philosopher Ryan Holiday has often emphasized that obstacles themselves can become tools for growth. Hardship teaches patience. Failure teaches humility. Loss teaches perspective. And when these lessons are accepted rather than resisted, adversity transforms from an enemy into a teacher. This is why the disciplined individual does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, the question becomes, "What is this trying to teach me?" The difference between these two questions is the difference between resentment and wisdom. One creates bitterness, the other creates strength. The 12th discipline, becoming unshakably vengefully. After months and years of quiet effort, a change begins to occur. It is not immediately visible, but it is deeply felt. Situations that once provoked anger no longer have the same effect. Challenges that once created fear now feel manageable. Criticism that once wounded the ego now passes through the mind like wind through an open field. This transformation is not accidental. It is the result of repeated discipline. Each morning we practice control over thought. Each day we refuse unnecessary conflict. Each evening we reflect on where we succeeded and where we must improve. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the mind becomes stronger, calmer, more stable. The philosopher Epictetus described this state in a simple but powerful way. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. This sentence contains enormous freedom. When we focus only on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, our character, the chaos of the world loses its ability to disturb us. And suddenly something remarkable becomes possible: peace. Not the fragile peace that depends on perfect circumstances, but the deeper peace that comes from knowing our inner world is governed by reason rather than impulse. The quiet path forward as the day continues. The world will inevitably attempt to pull us back into noise. Messages will arrive. Opinions will appear. Conflicts will invite our participation. But we remember the discipline we practiced in the morning. We remember the silent path, and so we continue forward, without unnecessary announcement, working, improving, observing, because the most powerful transformation in life rarely happens in public. It happens quietly, while others are distracted. And one day, when the results become visible, people may ask a simple question: when did this change happen? But we will know the answer. It began every morning, in silence, with a simple decision. Focus on yourself, move in silence, and let results speak. There is a moment in every disciplined life when something changes. At first, the path feels lonely, the work feels invisible, the progress feels slow. We wake early, we correct our thoughts, we resist impulses that others freely indulge, and for a long time it seems as though nothing is happening. But this is the great illusion of growth. Transformation rarely announces itself. It gathers strength quietly beneath the surface of daily effort, like roots spreading beneath the soil before the tree ever appears above ground. Most people abandon the path during this silent phase. They mistake invisibility for stagnation. They mistake patience for weakness. They mistake silence for failure. But those who persist long enough begin to notice something different. Their mind becomes calmer. Their reactions become slower, more deliberate. Their attention becomes sharper, and suddenly the world that once controlled their emotions no longer has the same power. This is the strength of silence, not the silence of passivity, but the silence of mastery. The 13th discipline, freedom. From comparison. Comparison is one of the most destructive habits of the human mind. It quietly poisons gratitude. It turns progress into dissatisfaction, and it convinces us that someone else's path should determine our own. But life was never meant to be lived that way. Each person is given different circumstances, different challenges, different timelines. When we compare ourselves to others, we abandon the one responsibility that truly belongs to our own improvement. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius warned about this distraction when he wrote, "Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others." These words carry a powerful lesson. Every minute spent analyzing, Someone else's success is a minute not invested in building our own character. Every moment spent envying another person's progress is a moment that could have been used to strengthen our discipline. The path of mastery requires a radical shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "How do I compare to others?" we ask a far more important question. Am I stronger, wiser, and more disciplined than I was yesterday? This question returns the mind to its rightful focus. Self-improvement, because the only meaningful competition in life is between who we were and who we are becoming. The 14th discipline, silence as strategy. Silence is often misunderstood. Some people assume that silence is weakness. They believe that if we do not constantly explain ourselves, defend ourselves, and announce our intentions, we must lack confidence. But the opposite is usually true. The strongest individuals rarely feel the need to broadcast their plans. They understand that energy is finite, and every word spoken unnecessarily is energy lost. The philosopher Epictetus once gave simple advice that captures this idea perfectly. Be mostly silent, or speak only what is necessary. There is enormous wisdom in this instruction. When we speak less, we observe more. When we observe more, we understand more, and understanding is power. Silence also creates something else: mystery. People cannot easily predict those who do not reveal every intention. They cannot manipulate someone whose emotions remain controlled. They cannot distract someone whose attention is fixed on purpose. This is why silence becomes a strategic advantage, not as a form of secrecy, but as a form of discipline. We conserve words the same way we conserve energy, only using them when they serve a meaningful purpose. The 15th discipline, the war against ego. If there is one force capable of destroying progress faster than failure itself, it is ego. Ego whispers seductive lies. It tells us we are already exceptional. It convinces us we deserve recognition before we have earned it. It pushes us to display achievements prematurely. And when praise finally arrives, ego becomes addicted to it. But addiction to praise creates vulnerability. Because once praise becomes necessary, criticism becomes unbearable. The philosopher Seneca understood this danger well. He warned that a person who depends on applause has surrendered their independence. The disciplined individual must therefore practice a difficult skill: humility, not the false humility that pretends to be small, but the genuine humility that understands growth never truly ends. There is always more to learn, always more to refine, always more to refine. And when the ego begins to demand recognition, we return to the same quiet reminder: results will speak. There is no need for us to speak on their behalf. The 16th discipline, strength through adversarial life, eventually tests every philosophy. There will be days when effort feels meaningless, days when progress disappears, days when circumstances become unfair, unpredictable, even painful. It is in these moments that character reveals itself. Anyone can remain calm when life is comfortable. Anyone can be disciplined when motivation is high. But adversity removes these advantages, and in doing so, it reveals the depth of our preparation. The ancient teachers never promised an easy life. Instead, they taught something far more useful. They taught readiness. The philosopher Epictetus once told his students to imagine difficulties before they arrived, so that when they appeared, the mind would already be prepared. This practice strengthens resilience, because the unexpected becomes expected. When challenges arrive, we do not panic. We adapt, we endure, and slowly we discover something remarkable. Hardship is not the opposite of progress. Often, it is the very mechanism through which progress occurs. The 17th discipline, controlling the narrative. The human mind constantly tells stories about success, stories about failure, stories about what others think. But most of these stories are not based on evidence. They are based on interpretation. And interpretation can be dangerous. A small mistake becomes proof of inadequacy. A minor criticism becomes a personal attack. A temporary setback becomes a permanent identity. This is why disciplined individuals become extremely careful about the narratives they accept. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius practiced a simple mental habit. Whenever something happened, he reminded himself, this is merely an event, nothing more. The meaning we attach to events is optional. Failure can mean humiliation, or it can mean instruction. Silence can mean weakness, or it can mean focus. Adversity can mean misfortune, or it can mean training. The power lies in interpretation, and when we control the narrative inside our own mind, we regain authority over our emotions. The 18th discipline, becoming untouchable after years of consistent practice, a remarkable transformation begins to occur. External events lose their power to destabilize us. Praise no longer intoxicates the ego. Criticism no longer wounds the spirit. Chaos no longer controls attention. This state is sometimes misunderstood as indifference, but it is not indifference. It is stability. The modern writer Ryan Holiday often describes this mindset as focusing entirely on what lies within our control. When we do this consistently, something extraordinary happens. The world may remain unpredictable, but our response to it becomes predictable. Calm, measured, purposeful, and suddenly, we realize something that many people spend their entire lives searching for. True power was never about controlling the world. It was about controlling ourselves, walking the silent path. By now, the pattern is clear. Each day begins with discipline. Each action strengthens the mind. Each moment of silence protects our focus, and slowly the person we once were begins to fade. In its place emerges someone different, someone calmer, someone stronger, someone who no longer depends on external validation to feel valuable. But this transformation requires patience, because the results will not arrive immediately. And when they finally do, they will not arrive with noise. They will arrive quietly, in the form of competence, resilience, and clarity. People may begin to notice the difference. They may ask what changed. They may even assume it happened quickly, but we will know the truth. It happened slowly, through silent mornings, through disciplined thoughts, through relentless self-control, and through one guiding principle repeated again and again. Focus on yourself. Move in silence. Let results speak. Part 4. The Quiet Power of Mastery, Final Part. There comes a point on this path where something subtle begins to unfold. At first, it is barely noticeable. The world remains noisy. People continue to chase attention. Arguments still erupt over trivial matters. But inside us, something is different. The storms that once shook our mind begin to lose their force. Situations that once demanded reaction now invite observation, and slowly we realize something profound. The world has not changed. We have. This is the quiet reward of discipline. Not applause, not recognition, but control. And control over oneself is the rarest power a human being can possess. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. This sentence carries the weight of a lifetime of wisdom, because true strength does not announce itself through philosophy. It proves itself through conduct, through action, through the quiet consistency of character. The 19th discipline, the courage to remain unnoticed. Most people are afraid of being invisible. They fear that if their efforts are not recognized immediately, those efforts somehow lose value. But those who walk the path of self-mastery understand a different truth. Invisibility can be an advantage when we are not distracted by recognition. We are free to focus entirely on growth. When no one is watching, there is no performance, only practice. And practice is where excellence is born. The philosopher Seneca understood this well when he wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you, but improvement requires humility. It requires the willingness to spend long periods learning, refining, and correcting mistakes without expecting applause." This is why true transformation often happens quietly. The person we are becoming is not built in public, it is built in private. Moments of effort, moments when discipline is chosen over comfort, moments when patience replaces frustration, moments when silence replaces unnecessary explanation. The 20th discipline, the simplicity of purpose. One of the greatest sources of suffering in life is confusion. People attempt to pursue too many directions at once. They chase recognition, wealth, admiration, security, and influence simultaneously. But when attention is divided in this way, progress slows, energy becomes scattered, and eventually exhaustion replaces enthusiasm. Those who seek mastery must learn a different approach. Simplicity. The teacher, Epictetus, once advised his students to keep their philosophy simple. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. There is immense clarity in this instruction. Instead of trying to become everything at once, we focus on one central objective, becoming a person of character. When this goal becomes the foundation of life, decisions become easier, actions become clearer, and distractions lose their influence. Because every choice can now be evaluated through a simple question: does this strengthen my character or weaken it? The 21st discipline, detachment from outcome. Many people work hard, but they suffer constantly. Why? Because they attach their peace of mind to results they cannot fully control. They work hard, but become anxious about recognition. They pursue goals, but fear failure. They invest effort, but obsess over outcomes. This creates a paradox. The very goals meant to bring fulfillment begin to produce stress. The ancient philosophers understood this dilemma deeply. Their solution was radical but powerful. Focus entirely on effort. Release attachment to outcome. The emperor, Marcus Aurelius, captured this mindset perfectly. Just that you do the right thing. The rest does not matter. This does not mean results are unimportant. It means results are not the source of our peace. Our peace comes from knowing that we acted with discipline, integrity, and courage. When effort becomes the focus, something remarkable happens. Performance improves, because the mind is no longer paralyzed by fear of failure. The 22nd discipline, living with quiet confidence. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many people associate confidence with loudness, dominance, and constant self-assertion. But true confidence rarely behaves that way. True confidence is calm. It does not feel the need to prove itself in every conversation. It does not chase validation. It does not compete for attention. Instead, it expresses itself through consistency, through competence, through composure. The modern writer, Ryan Holiday, often emphasizes that ego is loud while confidence is quiet. Ego demands recognition, confidence simply continues working. And over time, the difference becomes obvious, because while ego is busy speaking, confidence is busy building the 23rd discipline, leaving a legacy of character eventually. Every life reaches the same destination. Time moves forward, years pass, opportunities appear and disappear, and one day we look back and ask a simple question: what did my life represent? Did it represent distraction? Did it represent ego? Did it represent endless reaction to the noise of the world, or did it represent something stronger? Discipline, integrity, purpose. The philosopher Seneca once wrote that life is long enough if we use it wisely, and wisdom begins with the recognition that our time here is limited. This realization should not frighten us, it should focus us, because when we understand that time is precious, trivial concerns lose their importance. Petty conflicts become irrelevant. Endless comparison becomes meaningless. Only a few things truly matter: character, virtue, and the quiet work of becoming the best version of ourselves. The final reflection: so, each morning we return to the same discipline, the same quiet beginning, the same inner commitment. We wake up before the noise of the world takes hold. We examine our thoughts. We guide our attention. We strengthen our character through deliberate action, day after day, year after year, and slowly the results begin to appear. Not through dramatic announcements, but through subtle transformation. Calm in moments of chaos, clarity in moments of confusion, strength in moments of adversity. People may eventually notice the difference. They may ask what changed. They may wonder how this transformation occurred. But the answer remains simple. It began in silence, with one decision repeated. Every day, focus on yourself, move in silence, and let results speak.